Alright, so hello everyone. I put
What's
together
up,
this
dude?
lecture. Yep. I put together this lecture in response to a situation in which some players I encountered in the game have not heard of the discussion going on right now in the forums regarding power cores. It is either because they're not the sort to be bothered with reading the 20-page thread on forums, or have little or no interest in visiting the forums at all, or because they lack access to it somehow. You know, they probably don't have a computer, or maybe their phone is not capable of doing it, or because maybe the browser on their PS3 is absolute crap. So it came to me as no surprise that they have some disagreements about the idea of power cores and the tier side that they introduced to the game. It appears to me that much of that disagreement is either because of lack of understanding or lack of answers to certain questions pertaining to the subject. Questions like, what will happen to my officer suits? Or what about my Apex skin? Does this mean I get an SP refund? Or does this mean I have to then spend extra ISK for each suit for the cost of the power core? Or does this mean SP will be meaningless? As you can see, there's much uncertainty about the idea of tier side and power cores in the one part of the Dust 514 community that is somehow disconnected from the forum. So the purpose of this lecture is to help those in particular become better informed on what is going on right now. And
Okay.
we're going to begin this discussion or lecture with a quote from Eri Yasavi, which is expanding on Avlocantor's idea. And this is his quote. Currently, we have 180 unique base suits, 4 races, 3 tiers, and there are 3 variants for each, the ARM, ISK, and LP. Compounded together is 180 unique suits. The skin system looks to eliminate redundant assets of BPOs, but let's take that a step further. Give all suits the slot layout of their prototype, then add a power core slot similar to the skin slot. The power core would add the tier-appropriate CPU and power grid. Suits would cost the same as standard, and then the power cores will cost the equivalent difference in their tier cost. This will also be there will also be ARM cores and LP cores unlocked early. And but before I continue, just like to remind everybody here, put your mics to push to talk. You can access it on the top right hand of the chat window right now.
Yeah,
Just
okay, I'll do it right now.
Alright.
So wait, it's just gonna be a slot though. Basically, it's like an extra slot on your guy.
Yeah,
So
correct.
basically, you
Oh.
want people to have everything, but you want if they do add power cords, you want them to need to pay extra in order to use.
I wouldn't
the
say
slots.
I wouldn't necessarily say extra, more like the transfer of the cost, because overall you're probably going to be paying the same amount. It's just the cost is redistributed differently. The
Now,
suits
how
will be
about-
cheaper, but the cores will be a little more expensive to compensate. You know what I mean?
Now, why
Are they gonna run off
even
ISK?
change it? Why even
Because-
add that? What's the point?
Oh, okay, let me get to that. Now over here
It just
you have,
seems like it's redundant, and it's going to piss off veteran players that are spec'd into multiple things, and new players are going to kind of get pissed off too, because then you're going to be running the exact same suit as the next guy next to you, and you won't be able to tell whether it's basic, advanced, or proto until, well, you
I see
No,
what you mean,
because
but
you
let's
would have that come up in the heads up just the same, but based on the power core instead of the suit.
Well, let's move on here. What we have here, if this is implemented, what this would happen is there will be 5 roles, 4 races, nothing else. Compounded, that equals to 20 unique suits in the system. That just shaves off practically 160 unique suits from memory cap. Even more if you do this to the basic suits as well. And as you can tell by now, this idea has the ability to achieve 2 things at once. First, it renews the old concept of tier side. Second, it will be cutting down, and this is a big one here, it will be cutting down on the amount of memory being
Yeah,
used
but
up
by how
while
much?
the game is active. That we don't know, but we do
It
know that
won't-
it's
it won't
actually
be a
significant.
massive amount.
Because consider this, alright? Alright, this is practically the equivalent to hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. In addition, and positive a side effect of this idea is that The extra memory being freed up could also mean that more content can be added. If the saves are big enough, it could allow CCP to finally introduce more models into the game, such as maybe a new tank models or or Mimitar tanks, other than just relying on a reskin Galenti or Kaldari tank.
Now then, what would prevent someone from using, say, a standard suit? A standard suit and adding PG CPU upgrades to make it act like Proto.
Okay, hold on a sec. Somebody's knocking on my door. I'm gonna scream them off.
Grab a shotgun
There's
and
only one kind of suit that the power grids, the power cores are the new standard, advanced, and prototype. They're just not inborn to the suit.
Yes, they.
The basic the end result will basically end up where the drop suits would end up like the ships in Eve, where they're all the same, and the only difference is individual player skills and SP and what they have fitted to the suit, which is what the tier side is supposed to be and how the game is supposed to be designed from the beginning, rather than having 3 different drop suits that perform the same role.
Yes, they perform the same role in a way, but they do not. Now,
are you guys talking about the tier side that happened in Eve side?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm talking about progression and of the drop suits versus the comparison of like how you have tiers in here versus like how they're supposed to work in Eve, where it's like.
If I may, most people that play Dust don't give 2 shits about Eve, myself included, because
feelings mutual actually from Eve.
Yeah, Eve has nothing to do with this game at the moment, other than the basic structure: Galente, Amar, Mimitar, and Kaldari. That's about where it ends. Yeah, they can drop OBs for us in faction warfare, and in PC. But what does that matter? That's only a small section of the game.
Pardon me for interrupting you over here, but like it kind of does matter to the Eve players when the Eve players are the ones that actually get decent amount of loyalty points for every kill that they get on a Dust Mercenary from orbits.
But we get
have to
nothing
realize
for them.
that the people that make Eve,
we don't.
That's their cash cow. This is a secondary project to them. We're the unimportant ones, not Eve.
Yes, most Dust players don't recognize the impact that Eve has. It has little to no effect on Dust.
It does. Just like most people aren't involved in their local government and don't realize what impact it has impact regardless. Just because you're not aware of it occurs.
I'm not saying it doesn't have impact. I'm just saying it's so little onto Dust itself that
and I'm saying it's massive
and
you don't understand what you're talking about necessarily.
Alright, in Eve, Dust does help Eve, but Eve does not help Dust in such a way where the average player is going to get helped.
I'll have to agree on that one there. Like, it's a bit of more like a one-sided benefit
because of Eve, though.
Yes, but alright, I'm just trying to take Eve out of the equation because right now, yes, you can. Because right now, the only thing that Eve players can do is drop orbitals.
Okay,
that's
guys,
the only real way.
Pardon me for interrupting
in battles.
Here, but it looks like we strayed off topic over here. And Carter Host, I think you were trying to raise your hand on chat over here. Is there a question that you have right now?
Yes. I'm sorry to put you back a bit, but what is the argument here? Power cores being what, doing what, and what would be bad about it?
Now, that's what some people are looking into to see what are the bad sides about it. At least according to the forums, they don't seem to find that many downsides about it. But however, I think a few people did mention, and especially
Maken,
here,
gosh, I'm not sure if this is like my connection or not.
Some people are not used to the concept of a tier side, where like most of the suits are almost the same with the exception of the power core, which is in tiers. The power core would come in like standard, advanced, and proto, and the one suit that probably not
is there going to be an officer?
And that's actually where I'm going to be getting to over here.
Okay, yeah. Go on.
All right, like the officer suits are actually going to be the ones that are like not going to be touched because they're just too unique. Like they have varying slot layouts that throw them off from the rest of the suit arrangement. So there's nothing we can do about that. They're going to stay the way they are. They're not going to be tier-sided. But the number of suits that there are for those are so limited compared to the number that we're actually shaving off from the memory.
But what's the point in what? All right, why not keep it how it is? Everything seems to be fine, allowing everyone the chance to diversify far more than they would with tier side.
That I'm trying to see over here. Like from what I get, it seems like it's an attempt to at least balance out the matches a little more, because as of right now, like as you've probably seen by now, Scotty is like really acting drunk right now with matchmaking, and there doesn't seem to be much balance with how the suits are in relation to each tier.
But Scotty is
now they could. Yes, he always is. I think Scotty may be retarded. That's my suggestion. Yeah, I think we better put Scotty down.
Yeah, he's on meth. Let's just retard him.
Metaphors aside, let's talk about the literal here.
Alright, seriously, what is the point in doing it? If, right now, how you have everything, you can...
You know all the frame rate drops you get, and the lag issues you have, and the fatal errors that you get, they're all because of a memory issue, and this will solve that.
Yeah, that actually is the primary.
It's not a guaranteed solve, though.
Well, it seems to be enough for CSP Retati to actually stop by and drop an interesting comment in the thread. He basically said like he was mind blown by this, and he's actually doing some spreadsheets. And during the discussion, it was made clear that modules don't really take up much memory in an active game, since they do not have a visual model to render like the suits do. They're just modifiers of a given value. Suits on the other
they're just about 3 or 4 little numbers.
Yeah, suits on the other hand do take up a lot of memory because of the models. This is where Dust 514 kind of stumbles at the moment. Even though you can see the Assault C1 or Assault C1 series and CK0 have the exact same visual model of the Caldari Assault, the system still sees them as 3 separate items that are unique to each other. Each one takes up a set amount of memory because of this, which is wasteful. The concept of the Power Core seeks to eliminate that waste of space by making the system see only one unique suit per class and race, the Caldari Assault.
So basically, Power Cores are going to be like the skin module. It's going to be an addition that is,
correct.
But this one is going to be necessary in order to fit your suit. Now, your suit is going to come with no PG, no CPU, and the Power Core is going to give you your PG CPU.
Correct.
That's the general idea, yes. And True Adamance, another player, later brought up the idea of applying the concept of vehicles.
What is this? How many people on that post still play the game?
How many people post?
Yes.
I'm not gonna say for sure, man. Like, your guess is as good as mine, to be honest with you. I don't know.
I know a lot of people that quit this game and just go on the forums to troll and try and fuck with the people that still play it.
Well, surprisingly, there doesn't seem to be that many trolls on this particular thread for some reason.
Maken.
I expected trolls.
Maken.
Yeah.
Tosch. So what you're saying is that the whole issue is that if this happens, all drop shoots are the same and you have different power cores.
Yes, different power cores. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
So it'll be the slot layouts will be dependent on just 2 things at that point: the race of your suit and the role that they have. So for example, yeah. So let me just give you a quick example over here. Let me go to my fittings over here, because I got a bunch of fittings. So let's say, for example, I'm running on a Mars Scout. The Mars Scout at its proto level has 2 lows, 4 highs, and so at that point it's got like 90, like at least with my skills, I got like 92 power grid and 446 CPU. Now, after the power core is implemented, basically all the Mars Scout suits are going to have the exact same number of slots, high and low, two low. I mean two high and 4 lows. But the basic suit's not going to have any CPU power grid. That's where you're going to need to put the module in, the power core module, and it'll add the CPU and power grid for you.
Yeah, I just thought about this. If this does gets implemented, what happens to Apex suits?
Yeah, that's actually something I'm going to be covering in a moment here. But yeah, like back to what I was saying about true adamants later about the idea about applying this concept to vehicles in an effort to not only eliminate the same redundancy, but possibly make it easier to help adjust aspects of the design in a more straightforward manner in the future. As of right now, vehicles are balanced only under the current system. Oh, you're not sure about that?
I am a tanker, and we're already weak enough. I know people. All right, currently people are using standard tanks, and hold on, let me check.
Well, just keep in mind though, this has not been set in stone. All we heard is that C. Spiritati is looking into it. He didn't say that he's actually definitively going to be doing this. Remember, this is a player-driven idea right now.
Yes. Currently, all tanks are the same, with the exception of the militia. The Madrigal G1 standard is the exact same slot layout as the GVO. The only difference is PG and CPU. So there would be no
the GKO?
A GVO.
That means that this would effectively cause no change to vehicles if implemented.
It would cause no change, yes. But I feel that vehicle balancing needs a different turn, because currently, most people, even in PC, they run a standard shield tank with triple railgun damage mods, a heatsink, and a hardener. And with that, you can kill any proto tank because it is the same slot layout. I believe that the only way to balance, I believe the only way to properly balance vehicles is to keep them separate from drop suits. Balance them differently while making sure that they are not overpowered or underpowered.
I agree. There has to be some balance with the vehicles,
yes,
and even and more importantly, balance between them and AVs. I mean, there's been a long year or two long debate about that one.
Currently,
there doesn't seem to be a clear consensus as to like where the vehicles should be right now.
Currently, I believe that standard tanks should have one less slot on its respective side. The advanced tanks should have their current slot layout, or maybe changed up a little bit, and proto tanks should have one more slot, and PG and CPU changed to it. And I think that would be fine, since currently if you have one AV guy, if he has a Wirikami swarm launcher and light eyes, you can kill any tank on the field, because of how powerful AV currently is at close range. Since 3 light eyes will kill an armor tank.
Well, if you're proto and you can sneak up on a tank, I think that's you win the rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, now I don't see how that's fair. Just because, alright, my proto tank
I think what also need to be factors. Pardon me for interrupting again. I think what also needs to be factored in here is like the driver behavior. Like, how good is the driver in a tank versus that of like an AVer?
My proto tank costs 1.5 million. If you think that I should be able to die from someone whose suit is 100k,
I don't think price is actually the real concern over here.
Not the numbers.
What's the real concern is how you die. That's what I'm...
It kind of is, and it isn't. You're correct. But I think price matters, because if I'm just as strong in a tank that costs 1.5 million as someone that is in a suit that costs 150,000, then it is not balanced in my eyes. I do feel tanks should not be overpowered. I do not want them to be, because it should be a balanced game.
But what you're saying is basically if you're a lone tanker, that you should expect to see maybe like 2 or 3 AVs having a team against you. Is that what you're saying, right?
Yes, I believe that two proto AV should be able to kill a proto tank. 2 advanced AV should be able to kill an advanced tank. 2 standard AV should be able to kill a standard tank. But I do not believe 2 standard AV should stand any chance against a proto tank. I believe it should take 4 or 5 standard.
Okay. Just before we go on here, we got Carasini over here. Pardon me if I butchered your name. You said you have a question?
Yeah. One thing about the. Do you hear me, by the way? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Awesome. Yeah. One big problem in Dust's Proto Advanced Standard, the progression, has been that if you are using a prototype suit, only thing you'll have to pay for it is the is cost, and is cost does nothing for the battlefield balance. If you want to have the maximum power, you just use the best possible hull. It will be the drop suit or the tank hull.
Yes, currently the best tank hull is Proto, and it should always be, since Proto should reign over the others. But at the current cost, the hull of a Proto tank costs what an entire fitting is of a advanced.
Now my point is, there should be some kind of cost in it, but the cost would be something special, some sacrifice. There would have to be some very small sacrifice, so that you can say, okay, the advanced is infinitely better than the standard, and prototype is infinitely better than the advanced. So I believe that. I have an example, if I may quickly give you one example, so you know what I mean. The smaller standard tank could be with a smaller hull. The physical model, in theory, could be a smaller one, or it could have slightly better speed, for example. That would make you have to choose: am I going to fit an advanced or proto? Making a choice, important.
I see what you're going to. That's actually kind of similar to what I've seen in EVE Online. Like, let me give you an example over here of some kind of like tier side-ish balance that was going on in EVE. The mining barge, for example. Back then, mining barges used to be nothing but like stepping stones, starting from the procurer to the retriever to the coveter, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, respectively. And as a result, like when you progress from one ship from one tier to the next, the last one just fell off the wayside. It was not good. It was practically useless to you. And what they did to solve that problem is go with not the tier side that I'm talking about today, but the kind that I'm talking about like from the EVE perspective, where okay, you have the procurer. It's a really small ship. It doesn't really mine that much effectively, but it could be set to be a tanky ship. It's a tanky little ship. You could fit, in fact, right now, you can fit a skiff, which is a tier 2 version of not the Tech 2, the tier 2, Tech 2 version. That's what I meant to say. Tech 2 version of the Procurer. That thing can have as much HP as a battleship, and we're talking about a ship over here that's almost about the size of a frigate. But it's mainly for mining. This is for like low sec kind of thing. Another example.
You guys become half of the Dust player, more than half of Dust, doesn't know a single thing about EVE.
Yeah, but I'm just giving you an example of what CSP was doing. Like, they were trying to give each of those redundant ships some purpose. Like, one's purpose is like a tanky miner, the other's purpose is basically a very roomy miner that has all this ore space, and then another miner that has like a very efficient very efficient mining lasers to extract yield. So instead of just having like one ship being progressively better than the other and just making the other ones kind of redundant. So what CCP has been, not CCP, what the player idea here is not just like basically flattening the progression, but to overall free up memory space, because there's limited memory in the PS3 in relation to, like, say, a PS4. And there was, like, in fact, from what I remember correctly, what Rattati said, or maybe CCP Frame said, that some of the things that's preventing the game from having actual content, like, you know, more visual models or maybe the drones or what have you, is the memory. Like, you have all these suits being processed all at once in any given match.
Okay, now if they're going to do a complete tier side on suits, what's next though? I know it will not stop. There's weapons. I'm guessing they're gonna change up the weapons too.
You see, that's actually a very interesting thing though. Like it used to be an
please
old
don't
idea.
fucking take that serious.
What happened?
Please don't fucking take that seriously.
No. But here's the thing, though. This is not that kind of tier side we were talking about. This is actually dating back to like near closed beta or early on in Eve.
I know.
In Dust, when CCP Commander Wang was in CCP. This was not tier side or anything. This is just basically expansion of like weapons, like you're modifying a weapon or something like that. You know what I mean? That's what they originally wanted to do. They were planning on doing that, but there were some complications, and the thing fell on the wayside.
Caro Trader. Why don't weapons need a tier side? There's just as much weapons as there are suits.
Yeah, thing is, weapons do have different tiers. The more powerful tiers are more powerful, but it's way different from the drop suits because they have a sacrifice. The most PC and CPU, you have to make a choice. That is entirely different than the suit hull, basic suit or the tank hull nowadays.
But like I said, like we're just gonna the idea of imposing some kind of tier side on this, like on the weapons. I'm not sure about that. I mean, that's actually kind of recent, but the idea of like modifying the weapons themselves is actually a very old idea, like dating back like to the early parts of Dust. But like I said, it fell on the wayside because of complications, and this was under different management. This is before CCP Retati took control of Dust development. And one thing that came up eventually was, of course, the question about color suits. I mean, like the suit colors. Will the suits under the new system have prototype colors, or will they look like standard or lower? This is assuming, of course, the base color is used before the skin modules are fitted. Jokingly, it was said that black suits are to be across the board or someone's head in front of a scrambler rifle. And here's a quote from CCP Retati in response to that. Black protoskins could be unlockable with the power cores, if this is even possible. There are some complexities, but let me crunch more. But if you read close to his post, like, you'll notice that he said there's a big if in his statements. It depends on how complex it would be to implement such a thing as tying the base protoskin to a power core. He later went on to say that the power core idea was the linchpin, and that he's never seen that before. The idea of flattening the progression is certainly an old idea dating back to closed beta, and was even brought up again by CCP Z in the Project Legion section of the forums, back when it was actually still active. Right now, it's a dead neighborhood over there, if you walk over. But the idea never took off. The power cores, on the other hand, gave that idea some meat, and thus reason for CCP Retati to look into it. But later on, the discussion focused on what would happen to the officer suits. And this is probably going to answer some of your questions here. That was brought up by Robert Conway, another player, in the thread, to which Eero Yasabi later replied saying, assuming power cores can only change CPU and power grid, not slots, there will likely need to be officer suits opposed to officer power cores. Not a big deal, as those are relatively few, and we're still wiping a ton of redundant suits. Avalo Cantor pointed out that the unique slot configuration of those officer suits are not likely to be modified by the power core at all, because the cores will only be affecting CPU and power grid stats.
Now, will that will mean that we're gonna have to get a respec, just because currently we need to spec into level 5 for a suit in order to use the proto version, and level 3 to get the advanced, and level 1 to get the standard. Now, what, are we going to only have to spec to level 1 in order to get that suit? And then are we going to have to spec to level 5 in the power core in order to use that suit?
I wouldn't say my theory,
based on what I hear, it's going to cost new players more time. And it's going to take away a lot of the veterans that have 100 million SP and we're going to be cut down to half our suits.
My theory for that is like, and this is me just pulling the spitball and like you're pulling a theory out of my ass here, is that they probably have like maybe like a level 1 requirement for this just the suits, and then you have progressive like 1, 3, and level 5 progression for the power cores. Because remember, the power cores are the ones that are going to have some tiers. You have the standard, advanced.
A really simple solution to that wouldn't modify the trees at all is if you take whatever skill level you're skilled into in a given suit, that's the level of power core you're allowed to put in that suit.
Correct. And the topic later moved on to cover like weapons, and that's something we already just
actually
went through that already.
If I may interrupt, if you look into the chat, Caro actually has a good idea.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Tech
coding.
Sorry, give me a moment.
I can explain myself as well. So I wrote down on chat there. It's question is more like tech or coding related. I don't know if you can answer it. I don't have any idea. But could new suits in theory have more slots, like 555 for example? But with the power cores, shut some of the slots down. That way they wouldn't
that's
change.
Not the understanding. That's not the understanding I got. What I got is this: that okay, let's say I'm level 1 in a suit. I'm hearing my voice there. Can you push the talk on?
Yeah, someone has their mic on.
Okay, but let's assume here that I got just level 1 over here on the suit and on a power core. What's going to happen here is that like on my Mars Scouts, I'll still have access to all the slots available to me for Proto, all the 4 lows and all the 2 highs. All that's going to happen though is that I'm going to be limited in my fitting capacity via the power grid and CPU. So I have the option of like putting together a lot of malicious stuff on the suit, because that's basically what I can't fit over here with the limited capacity for say a standard core. But if I want to put advanced or prototype modules on this thing, I'm going to be limited in that capacity. A good example of that is the Apex suits that you see right now that you can edit. If you look at them right now, they have proto level fitting slots available, but you have like something to the equivalent of a standard power grid CPU allotment given to you. And that's a good example right there. Have I made myself clear?
That forces you to fit several basic modules, but with as many of them as a proto suit.
Correct. And yes, right, inevitably.
So if I have a proto suit and a power grid comes out, what would the difference be for me on that?
Say again? Say that again?
Because I got the Apex, and that was one of the things that I can't put really too much, like advanced gear on my guy. Like if I get is the power cord going to change anything like that?
That's something that they're probably that's something that we're looking into right now.
Yeah, because people won't actually pay the money because they want to just have the proto. You know, they don't want to run the basic gear. They want the good stuff.
Yeah, and that's something I'm actually going into right now. As for something like the Apex or the Quave suits, like Aero made another suggestion to at least try to cover that. Like for your BPOs, let's say you get a BPO power core in exchange. Like Apex power cores could perhaps fill in the slots with free gear as well that you could swap out. This brought up a very important point though. Some pointed out that Apex suits are something that CSP needs to be extra careful with. Considering that CSP is not likely to ever, and this is probably what's going to piss you off, considering that CSP is not likely to ever give ARM or LP refunds for changes to BPOs like this, because they haven't actually, they made a lot of changes, and they haven't, they will need to get this right the first time, or else you'll see a lot of pissed off players rallying in the forums. Aero did mention that at the least Apex should never be advanced cores, but the one problem faced with Apex suits is that they were originally designed with tiers in mind. As of right now, people are scrambling to find a good solution to this without having to resort to handing out refunds. A player by the name of Red Bleach came up with an alternative, which he later explained in a follow-up post. Like, imagine like a regular BPO suit would equal to about like, okay, you get a skin, you get the suit, and then you have the standard power core, which lasts forever for you, you know. And for Apex suits, you have the skin, the suit, the X power core. I'm not sure what he meant by X power core, and preloaded equipment forever. Also, the principal reason why everyone seems to be avoiding the idea of handing out refunds is, as Redbleach pointed out, that the idea of asking for a refund regarding any change is the kind of talk that scares the living daylights out of businesses from doing what needs to be done. This is why everyone is looking for an alternative that aims to please everyone. But of course, you all know how impossible that is. Keep in mind that long ago in Dust, CCP used to offer ARM refunds to players who bought BPOs because at the time CCP wanted to remove BPOs as they were contrary and possibly damaging to the secondary market they were aiming for, the kind that would have merged with EVE's economy. But players refused the offer, saying that BPOs were the only items worth spending ARM on at the time, while boosters didn't look all that appealing at that. This was a long time ago. Of course, what really stopped CCP from giving players the ARM refund was the fact that later on someone opened their mouth bragging about how much free ARM they would be getting because a bunch of players managed to buy a bunch of BPOs in bulk for the low price of 100 ARM each. This was back in closed beta. Today, most BPOs are in the thousands, and some of these players have hoarded a bunch of these things. Do the math. Nowadays, we don't have to worry about merging the EVE economy, as that will likely never happen at this point anyways, due to the changes in management and the new direction that CCP Retati is taking the game. On top of that, we have more things to spend ARM on besides suits and modules, or module BPOs. Hack decryptor keys for that rare salvage, or faction warfare boosters becoming more useful, especially now that faction warfare has more incentives than pub matches, and respecs are available. And once ARM item trading becomes available, ARM will have more use than ever before. Now, let me remind everyone here that the idea regarding tier system.
Yes, but most people don't want to ever pay for ARM. Most people just want to play this game and get everything from in-game currency, ISK and LP.
I don't know if you heard. But like you heard that that they're wanting to implement daily ARM reward, like daily login ARM reward, right? They're still working on that. Like,
I heard about it. I don't know much past that.
We were supposed to get it like for 2 weeks after, but apparently that somehow got delayed. I don't know how or why. But that would at least help, though. And right now we got this event that's going on where if you get 5 out of 10 daily missions, you get 500 ARM.
Yes. Right. Which I know several. Well, most of the Dust community is trying to get that because this is considered an event that will never happen again.
Yeah, so we're talking about, think about it, like 500 a day across 7 days for one character, and that's before you account the 2 other alts.
Yeah, but you can't send it ARM across characters, so.
Well, actually, if you earn ARM from one alt in the same accounts, it's shared with all. The characters.
Sorry, I had a momentary lapse. Thought of ISK.
Yeah. But yeah, the idea of the core, like the tier side cores, kind of looks similar to CCP Z's idea of progression when he brought it up in Project Legion, but there are major differences, as I pointed out in the discussion. In Arrow's and Avalo's idea, this, for one, it eliminates redundant items in the game and thus increase room for possibly adding more things into the game that is currently optimized for the PS3, which has limited hardware compared to the PS4. Second, this has
because
no
it is past gen,
the skill tree currently works, or at least as far as I know. They might have to make subtle changes, something like where, like, okay, actually, let me get that in a moment. Another thing is CCP Retati is interested in this, and cores are a major factor in this. CCP Z's idea, on the other hand, forces players to skill through items they
now,
need
who's
in order to access.
CCP?
He is actually the, or at least last I heard, the chief, I think the chief marketing and monetization officer or progression director for Project Legion. He was supposed to be the one that was set the whole thing up for Project Legion. Like basically, like whatever progression that was scheduled for Dust was then ported over to Legion. But as we all know, Project Legion seems like at this point is dead.
Yeah, no, I think that they should just completely scrap Project Legion, port Dust to PS4, and allow some minor changes to be allowed on PS3.
I'd be okay with either or, like PS4 or PC, but for convenience sake, I'd probably go with PS4. You know, because
yes, PS4.
Everybody already has a PlayStation Network account, and all they have to do is just log in to get that. But yeah, again, like the problem.
But if it moves to the PS4, will I still have my guy? Will my guy still be there if I log into my account, or is it going to be completely new?
I can definitely say for certain that it would be, because thing is, the data that you have on your character
would be the same.
It's not stored on your PS3 or anything like that. It's stored on a server. CCP has your character and suit information, everything. It's that simple. It doesn't really take that much overhaul at all when it comes to the skill books.
So if I'm thinking about getting a respec right now, should I just wait until the next update?
And I think wait until the next update. I mean, we're not sure when this is even going to be implemented. We're not sure if it's going to be implemented maybe like in the next update or the next 2 updates. Because remember, CCP.
We're not sure if it's going to be implemented.
CCP is still working on something else as well, Planetary Conquest 2.0, which is probably taking up the majority of their time right now. And they say like adding this over here, you got a full schedule. And at this so at this point, I'm just about almost done with this lecture, and before I move on to answering any more questions, we're just going ahead, form up the squad. I'd like to mention a quote from Avlo Cantor. Like, Rattati is working on the PowerCore tier site Google's documents, so it seems he has plans to implement it. And let's see, when I was looking around the forums, apparently there was already a Google Doc made available where it's like it's actually a spreadsheet where you actually see the results of it. Let me see if I could give you an example here.
Do you guys know when the next update is, though?
The next major update, that, from what I noticed, is seems to be synced up with the point releases for EVE Online.
Yeah,
EVE Online gets a major update. Very likely, Dust is going to get a major update at the same time. And
with that, it appears to be second or third week of June, as that's just a speculated release date because of EVE's release cadence is every 6 weeks, and the last update was like April 28th, and that's when the skins came out on the exact same day. So it's possible we can do that, and it's also just out of convenience for downtime, because you get that extended downtime from EVE. You could also that's when they also use it to update Dust at the same time. So you could probably expect it around second or third week of June, June 2nd or June 9th.
Correct. And let me.
Is there going to be any major update? Like, what's going to happen?
PC 2.0, well, probably, because that's when he said he would. That's when Truddy said he would probably do it sometime before summer.
I mean, if you ever take the time to visit the Trello boards, like you'll see that like the updates that we've been receiving so far have been consistent with what's been posted on the Trello boards, at least mostly consistent. And there's a list of backlog stuff as well. And we have, I think the latest that they have listed there is Warlords 1.2, and I think that's probably where you have like more stuff for Planetary Conquest. It seems to be more focused on Planetary Conquest and I think District Rating, if I remember correctly. And let me give you a couple of examples over here of the chart that I have here that supposedly I think is from Rattati. Let's say, okay, we got like 4 races, and each one we got like in each of these races we have medium, assault, logi, heavy, sentinel, commando, light, scout, and strangely enough, pilot is still there. Although what really caught my eye is that apparently Amar have the Crusader in there, thrown in there. I'm like, where'd that come from? But anyways, over here it shows, okay, base CPU power grid, for example, Mimitar Scout, 0, 0. But it has a multiplier of 1.22 for CPU and 1.55 for the power grid. Now, if you throw in, say, a standard core that has 150 and 20 respectively for the CPU and power grid, that would give the Minotaur Scout suit 183 CPU and 31 power grid. I'm not sure where the multiplier part actually came from. That's probably from Skillbook or something like that.
It's actually quite a bit. Fitting space.
Oh yeah, that actually fit. Not sure, but it actually kind of sounds like a buff, to be honest with you. I'm not sure.
That's more than assaults.
Speaking of assaults though, like it seems that like maybe for the Minotaur, like the ones that are gonna have the most space available will be the Minotaur Scout. But when you look at the other races like the Lente, you have the Logi that's gonna have the most fitting space. You have the Caldari. I think that's probably gonna be the maybe the Scout or Heavy, somewhere in between those two. And the Amara, apparently you have the Crusader, which just came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. It's got like a modifier of 2 and 2.25 respectively for the CPU and power grid, which brings it to like say 300 and 46 respectively. You get that?
More or less.
This is just assuming you're fitting a standard power core, not the advanced or proto ones yet. At least that's what I'm reading over here from the spreadsheet that was posted.
But if that's like right, you would never be able to never have to fit anything less than prototype on any core, no matter what.
Oh, we'll see. Okay, and let's see. Oh yeah, one thing that someone pointed out, like at least one of the possible downsides of this concept, such as seeing a bunch of pub stompers leaving the game en masse, since it currently feels like they're the majority right now. And like I was thinking about like, well, isn't that a good thing? But then someone mentioned, well, actually that's kind of bad.
Pub stompers,
because
pub stompers are the main ones that play the game.
Yeah, if they leave, chances are they would we're probably not going to see any more. But this reminds me of something. Apparently this has happened before in EVE. This was back long ago when EVE was like just a fledgling little game, where like apparently like a corporation was betrayed. There was like there was corporate espionage, and this is from a corp that had quite a bit of influence. People took like months to build it up, and then when it was destroyed by pirates and infiltrators, people wanted CCP to intervene. People wanted CCP to undo the damage that they did, because not only did they assassinate the CEO's character and destroyed his ship, but they also like had spies in the corp that basically stole everything that wasn't bolted down in the hangar. Practically a lot of Iskan assets gone or destroyed, and they were pissed off at that. But CCP announced saying, well, sorry, no rules were technically broken, just trust. And because of that, 500, as I Am Duncan Idaho points out, 500 left. But the 5,000 that joined after were because some people read a British magazine that posted an article about the incident, and apparently a lot more people were just as interested in EVE Online because of that. So I'm thinking, well, what about Dust? I mean, what about like those? Would that happen when maybe like pub stompers leaving? That people are coming back because pub stompers left? Who knows?
Now, also one thing, a large amount of the player, well, not a large amount, some of the players that did leave were pub stompers. And they were some of the best pub stompers. They were mad because of some other updates. Now, will this bring them back? Will it make it worse? Will it make it better?
Maybe worse for pub stompers, but I've actually encountered a lot of players like that left the game for other reasons besides the fact that they weren't able to pub stomp as effectively, like things like say lag, or their PS3 kept overheating, or like sounded like a 747 taking off, or their PS3 actually died. Other things like that. But there seemed to be a very common complaint with all those players, regardless of whether this complaint was their main one or their minor one. Pub stompers. There was always a common complaint with these players that left.
Yes, and
pub stompers.
Although they are a problem, I will not try to argue with that. It is completely true, but the main people that put Aurum into this game, that buy for this game, are Proto Stompers. Those are the ones that buy respecs. I
put Aurum in this game. I paid for Aurum in this game, but I'm not necessarily a pub stomper. In fact, I've been avoiding pub matches for much of my time here ever since Faction Warfare got overhauled, because I just don't feel like it's just like why should I go around squashing weaker players in pub matches when I can take on a challenge and go to Faction Warfare, PC light, something like that, as I like to call it, At least there I'm facing the likes of, say, negative feedback or
me.
Or something like that, I want a real challenge. I'm not the kind of person who goes to a public match and tries pub stomping, And if I have to go there and pub stomp, not pub stomp. If I have to go there in a public match, I'm probably not going to use any more than say standard or basic, just because I'm only there to gain some ISK, because I get broke really quickly in Faction Warfare.
Yes, and most of the old players that are still here, most of the closed beta guys, they want more ISK. They want to further their fortune. They want to get better.
Yeah. All right, and then there's before I sign off, okay, finally there's a quote from Caval Longstride. He's also known as Denny Fleetfoot, the CEO of Dust University, my corp, and current member of the Council of Planetary Management 1. This is his quote: "As I understand it from retiring, every colored variant of every suit ever made are loaded into the game regardless of if you have them in your inventory or not. This is so that you can see them being used by others. This data includes animation frames for each one. The skin system means that only each of the 3 racial frames need loading to begin with. Each variant is a version of these 12 base models with a default skin, or one you paid for or found in salvage. That skin is then simply applied to whichever of the 12 base frames the suit is based on. This is obviously a huge reduction in memory footprint that the game has. So, in other words, whenever you go into a match, you're not loading up just the ones that you see on the field. It's also loading up the ones that are potentially going to be on the field, because you don't know what the next player is going to bring in. Okay, let's say you come in with your Amar Scout like I do. Later on you realize they have a counter to your Amar suit, so you go and switch over to something else.
Like
it's not a Amar, it's not a Scout, something like that.
The counter to everything, a scramble rifle and a modded controller.
You have to switch to a new suit or a new role, and that means that the game has to compensate for that, and thus you have to load up all these 180 unique suits. And that's
to be honest,
taking up the memory.
Right now, I would much prefer that they fix some of the current bugs, and people using modded controllers. That is a large issue at the moment. People using
that issue has been around since the Stone Ages.
Yes, but you remember what happened when the Duval TAC was out?
The tactical assault.
People were using and abusing that. Now, what did they do to fix that?
I think they reduced the clip size. I can't remember.
They lowered the fire rate.
And they already did the scramble rifle, so it's still, while it is still slightly an issue, it's more or less a problem of damage and less of rate of fire. But you can't really fix a hardware exploit with a software thing without actually breaking the weapon. So that's kind of a thing that we're not going to be able to fix. It's a rock and a immovable. Anyway, it's not something that you can just fix like that with a coding issue. So.
All right, and right now that is all for now. I hope everyone here managed to learn something new. I mean, I'm not here to try to change your mind, or if you somehow disagree with the concept of the core module and the tier set it brings. I'm just here to help you be better informed on what's going on right now and what we know so far. Whether you agree or disagree with the idea, at least do it with an informed mind. Now, if anyone here has any questions left, ask now is a good time.
Why are CCP such retards?
Now, a more serious question.
Yes. That is a serious question.
with the
more serious question.
With these skills for engineering and electronics, you said they're affecting they would probably affect the efficacy of the power cores. Would it remove one of the skills and just have one skill that you would need a skill into for that?
To access power cores, you mean?
I mean, like for the bonuses, like how the electronics and PG in the engineering skills boost your CPU and a PG. Basically, let me start over. These skills for electronics and engineering boost your suit fitting cap. Would the changes to the power core and how you were saying how they affect the efficacy remove one of those skills and make you only have to skill into one?
I mean, maybe, because remember, the examples I just threw out were just my own personal examples. Like, I'm not exactly sure what CSP Retati is going to find in his number crunching, and from the looks of it, I think he may have already from the samples I gave out. I mean, because I noticed now, I guess that explains why he put a modifier in there in regards to like the suits. That might be what's probably going to address the skill books and that. But I don't know. This is just preliminary though, and he could change his mind on how it could be applied later on. Because remember, he's still having to just like go through this, and we have to wait until he makes an official statement on what's actually going to happen with this going forward. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So until then, all we can do is just speculate. You know.
Yeah. So far, he's only said this is something he's looking into.
Correct. So for now, all we're doing here is playing around with the finest tinfoil in New Eden, and hoping that the crystal ball is actually right for once. But yeah.
For once.
Did you say tinfoil in New Eden?
Yes, the finest tinfoil in New Eden. Oh, Arrow, you came late.
Yeah, you kind of missed the whole thing.
Damn. Okay, I'm Duncan Idaho. I hope you recorded this.
Wait, people record this?
Sorry, he said he missed about 8 minutes.
Yeah,
this was rather enlightening.
Hold on.
Oh wait, I thought it started an hour ago. Did it just start 8 minutes ago?
No, it did start an hour ago.
Oh, it started an hour. I posted a schedule about it. Like,
it's been an hour.
I know. I'm just late.
It's been an hour?
I think so. Like,
I thought it was 5 minutes.
It has.
4:03. Holy shit.
It's been an hour and 3 minutes.
I thought it's been 5 minutes. Shit.
Whoa, man! Somebody needs. I think you need to adjust your internal clock there, buddy.
Yeah, he also needs to lay off some of those hallucinogenics.
All right.
Now that can't be the problem right there.
I guess I should probably rename it to UTC instead of GMT for the 1900. All right. Well, I guess that's all now, guys. Hopefully, we'll get something else to talk about next week for the next lecture. And I'm
next
really
week's
glad that
lecture.
you came around.
Crack or Coke?
I prefer Pepsi.
I don't know. Boxers or brief?
Briefs.
Boxer briefs.
Or that.
All right. All right, guys. That's it for now. And have a good day.